everyone, this is Leroy here from Intune Instruments, Dubai, UAE. Today we're going to cover various common problems found on a classical guitar and how fluctuations in very low and high humidity and temperatures can negatively impact your classical guitar. So what I have here on this Tech workstation is this wonderful Manuel Rodriguez classical guitar. The guitar has a lovely, nice cedar top that is fan braced in the traditional style of building. What I believe this is perhaps in the Madrid manufacturing style of guitar building. For the back and sides, we have eucalyptus wood, something which is not really commonly found on classical guitars of backs and sides. But that said, makes a very interesting choice of tone wood. Having played this guitar, it has a wonderful tone, with the exception of a couple of problems that we're going to address and correct today. Now here's a bit of background about Manuel Rodriguez. Apparently this company's history spans more than 118 years. The Rodriguez family's journey began with Manuel Rodriguez Perez, who at a tender age of 18 in 1905 started his apprenticeship in the workshop of Agustin de Andreas. Now moving forward in 1973, Manuel Rodriguez Jr., the present generation, took the reins and embarked on a new journey for the brand that has gained popularity, more especially in Europe. Now this guitar belongs to a client of mine, Lay, professional classical guitarist and flamenco guitarist, who has been using this guitar for a couple of months, and having changed the strings from Hanabac to Diodario high tension, what he noticed were some weird frequencies on the first, second, and third string. Again, what I found is it's a bit more pronounced on the first string. So let me play just the open tuning, the first string for you. Again, I do not know how well the camera mic will pick this up, but nevertheless, I'll give it a shot. As you will notice, there is a bit of an unusual tone coming out from the first string. On the second and third string, it's not that pronounced. So that's one problem that we have identified over here with this guitar. Now, sometimes these weird frequencies, or what you can perhaps also refer to as wolf notes, as well as some of these metallic sounds that you get when you play, which basically refers to string buzz. So there's a difference between wolf notes and string buzz. So wolf notes would be some kind of a weird frequency going on with some of the strings of the classical guitar, or if you play a fretted note at a particular point on the classical guitar, there will be this weird song. String buzz is when you fret a note and you get this metallic kind of sound, mainly due to uneven frets. So what I've come up with is 5 possible reasons. The first problem could be perhaps with the nut. Now what I have here is a nut blank for a classical guitar, and if these nut slots are not correctly cut for the proper dimension of the string, they can sometimes lead to a weird frequency. Secondly, if this particular nut is not seated correctly in the guitar nut slot over here and rattles a bit, that could again cause a little bit of buzzing or unusual noises sometimes, or you don't get a full note. Sometimes you may even get a wolf note with something of that sort. So to address that, you've got to basically go back and check to see if the nut slots have been cut correctly. There's a right amount of torque or tension that is required for the first string on the saddle and the nut, so that it kind of makes sure, so that you ensure that the sound is coming nice and clear. The second problem could be perhaps with the saddle. So I have here a blank saddle. This is an uncut saddle. Now, at the saddle over here in this particular guitar, let me just give you an example and bring it slightly closer to the camera. You have two portions of the saddle. One is where the string meets at the top of the saddle over here. And secondly is the break angle that you see over here. Now, if this angle is not correct or too shallow, what you have is you could have very dull notes, you could have sometimes buzzing, you could have some weird frequencies going on. The second problem could be either the saddle is not very well seated in the bridge slot. So what I mean by this is that either it is too loose or the saddle is too tight. So that needs to be sometimes checked and addressed. The third problem could be with the frets. Unlevel frets and frets that are not crowned properly could lead to metallic sounds such as buzzing and also affect the guitar intonation. And here is where high or low humidity and even fluctuations in temperatures can create all sorts of problems. I'll explain about this in a minute. Fourthly, it could be loose braces. And this can again happen due to changes in temperature, humidity, etc. However, when you have a loose brace, you can just tap at different sections of the guitar, kind of muting the strings, and you may be able to hear a bit of rattling sound. Or when a particular string buzzes unusually with a rattling sound, then you know exactly perhaps there could be a potential for a loose brace. And lastly, it could be a combination of two or more of these problems. Now, having examined this particular guitar, the issue could be twofold. One are the uneven frets, and you have some rocking at different sections of the neck. This neck to body junction is generally where most of the problems do arise. Yeah, so it could be one we've identified as uneven frets. And secondly, it could be problems either at the nut or at the saddle, or a combination of the nut and the saddle itself. Now, unlevel frets are a very common issue that I find here on guitars in the Gulf region. One of the main reasons for these problems are the changes in relative humidity and temperature fluctuations. From the country where the guitar is manufactured to the country where the guitar is actually being used. As a rule of thumb, most factories and luthiers tend to maintain a relative humidity of around 40 to 50% and a temperature range of around about 18 to 25 degrees Celsius at the time of building their instruments. Some manufacturers do pay extra attention by having their guitars fret level either manually or by one of those expensive Plek CNC machines. I personally find some of those machines not always to be very accurate. On the other hand, you have manufacturers who don't level frets and set up the guitar action deliberately a bit high, as this extra step can be time consuming and also costly, adding to their manufacturing cost. This particular problem is more pronounced on inexpensive guitars, as the costs do not justify. Or even if these costs do justify, relative humidity and temperature changes may likely affect the wood and may undo all the fret leveling work which they've already done, explaining the earlier reason, the difference in the relative humidity and temperature where the guitar is actually manufactured to where the guitar is actually shipped and acclimatized to that particular condition in the player's country. Now, when guitars get exposed to fluctuating temperatures and relative humidity, whether it be from indoors to outdoors or vice versa, the wood is going to expand and contract. Now, when the relative humidity and temperature is high, the wood is going to absorb moisture, and that would lead to the expansion of the wood. Again, we're not talking about in a big way, but we're talking about in a very minute way, but it still has an impact on the tone as well as the frets on the fretboard, on the belly of the guitar, etc. While the frets are made of materials such as nickel, silver, or brass, or stainless steel, etc., etc., the fret material will not move to changes in temperature and humidity, but the wood would move either through expansion or contraction. And therefore, as the guitar acclimatizes in the country where it's actually been used, even though there may be fret leveling done by the manufacturer or not be done, whatever, the frets are going to move a little bit, and therefore you have this slight unevenness even on new guitars, and they need to be set up. So that's what I want to tell you today about the impact of relative humidity fluctuations and temperature fluctuations. So please do take care of your guitar and try to maintain the guitar in the right temperature environment. One of the ways to protect it from high humidity could be basically, if you're taking it from indoors to outdoors, ensure that you put a couple of silica gel packets, not too much, but maybe 2 or 3 sachets within the case to protect the guitar from basically absorbing too much of moisture. On the other hand, if in extremely cold climates, we don't face that so much here in the Gulf region. When you're talking about relative humidity, which can then drop below 35% and then go in the range of 15 to 20%, that's where you need to be extremely careful and can be more damaging, as I said, than high humidity. And you get various products to kind of ensure that you kind of keep the moisture balance of the guitar at the optimum relative humidity between 40 to 60%. So you have Diodario basically, which has some of their humidity packs to control the humidity within the case itself. And you have various host of other products which help to kind of maintain the humidity of the guitar, especially in conditions where the humidity has dropped extremely low. So if you found this video useful, I would be very grateful if you could subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell icon. So I'll get on with this job correcting this instrument. If you want to kind of watch a particular video where I have done this job before, I'll put a link in the description below. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.